and abroad as well, isn't it?
That's right. We saw the French press wasn't that impressed with this new government that actually seems very similar to the older one as well. Well, let's take a look at the front page of the Wall Street Journal today. They're focusing on how the French president has really boosted the left in this candidate. It's a smaller government team that really draws on party heavyweights.
A lot of the papers focusing on one of these so-called new ministers, as you put it as well. Quite a familiar face, isn't she?
That's right. Ségolène Royal, also a heavyweight in the Socialist Party. She's getting a lot of attention. Let's take a look at an article in The Guardian that talks about how after a long period of exile, well, she's getting a key role in this cabinet reshuffle. So she's Minister of Ecology. Now, remember, she's Hollande's former partner, the mother of his 4 children. And she's been in and out of the papers in recent years, both for her professional career. Remember, she ran against Nicolas Sarkozy in the 2007 presidential race and lost, but also because of her personal life. Of course, her breakup with François Hollande, that thinly veiled animosity with his then new girlfriend, Valérie Trierweiler, that public breakup that, according to a lot of papers, actually opened the way for her to return to French politics. But this is a kind of unheard of situation that a lot of other papers are focusing on. Let's take a look at an article in the Frankfurter Allgemein that talks about the revenge of the exes and says that the former dream couple of the Socialist Party has reconciled politically, and Hollande is going to have to face his private life at the cabinet table. El Mundo is also focusing on this. It talks about the resurrection of the betrayed wife. Sounds a lot like a zombie movie.
It does. Yeah.
And this article points out that she was actually once already ecology minister. April 2nd, 1992. So 22 years ago to the day that she was appointed ecology minister, she's back.
Talk about soap opera. It goes round and round, doesn't it? I'm going to move stateside now. A lot of focus on major ruling at the Supreme Court on campaign financing.
That's right. This is the controversial ruling over the McCutcheon versus Federal Election Commission. It's getting a lot of attention. Let's take a look at Slate that talks about how the Supreme Court, basically struck down overall contribution limits from individual political donors. All this in the name of freedom of speech. And you can see here their assessment of it. Justice Roberts Hearts billionaires. This article says that it appears that the Chief Justice either doesn't believe or doesn't care that money corrupts politics. So a very harsh article there. The Washington Post is also focusing on this ruling in their editorial today. It says that the Supreme Court has overturned yet another federal law meant to check corruption and influence peddling in national politics. And this actually calls on Congress to respond by designing new rules that can pass over this ruling.
More elections now we're talking about. This is something we're also talking about in focus, in fact, the upcoming presidential elections in Afghanistan, scheduled for April the 5th.
That's right. The regional press is focusing on it. I pulled out an article from Dawn, which is a Pakistani paper. It's focusing on how the fact that this third election since NATO troops intervened is a very symbolic turning point for the country. And it reminds us that Afghanistan is a very young country. Nearly 60% of Afghans are under 25. According to this article, they're very anxious about their political future, and also anxious are women in Afghanistan, and that's the focus of a very interesting article in the International New York Times today. It's talking about how the women in Afghanistan are seeking hope in the ballot box, but it's a wary hope. And this article points out that there are about 300 women running for either provincial seats across the country, and also for the very first time a woman there's a candidate to be vice president. Her name is Habiba Sarobi. Now, these women, according to this article, are trying to advance women's rights. But it points out that the clock is ticking because Western influence in the country is fading fast.
And finally, we're sticking, in fact, with the empowerment of women. Anything you want, Flo. You pulled out an article, haven't you, about what makes money in Hollywood.
That's right. You can read about it in The Independent. There's something known as the Bechdel test. This is a test that was invented by the American cartoonist Alison Bechdel. Basically, a film passes this test if it features two women who have a conversation about something other than a man. Now, you'd be surprised to know that very few films actually pass this test.
Really?
But according to a new analysis that you can read about in The Independent here, films that pass the test are actually likely to make more money than films that don't. They have a bigger return on investment. So recent examples of films that pass the test are Blue Jasmine, American Hustle, and Stephen, you'll be happy to know that Frozen passed
Stephen's
the
favourite
test.
film.
I can tell you that Legally Blonde also passes the Bechdel test. That was a very surprising fact.
It is a surprising fact because movie made a lot of money, and as you've been telling us, Frozen has also been a big box office hit. It's the biggest grossing animated movie ever, so perhaps more films should follow that
So
example.
directors and producers need to listen up. Empower those women. Thanks a lot, Flo. We'll do anything she wants, really. Flo Vilmano and Stephen Carroll here at this time every day here on France 24. Coming up for you, we've got the very latest news, of course. Plus, in today's focus, we're going to be with the at least 1.6 million registered Afghans who live, in fact, in Pakistan. Now, they are the largest refugee population anywhere in the world, most of them living in slums, but they say they've been totally excluded from Afghanistan's elections this weekend. That's coming up after the break. No, don't have a shot.